Hello everyone, how are you? I hope you're all having a good time in Kisumu and enjoying the meeting. I wanted to present to you something about the natural sciences part of the Women's Food Entrepreneurs Project and what we're currently doing in that part of the project. First of all, let me introduce myself. Maybe some of you have already met me, but for those of you who haven't, my name is Tamara Jonkman, and I'm one of the 3 PhDs in the Women Food Entrepreneurs Project. But I work in the natural sciences part of the project, which means that I work with the food producers in both Kisumu and Ouagadougou, and my main focus in that is the soil. So as you can see in the picture, that means that I often go around digging holes in the ground to look at the soils. In the summer of 2016, I visited Kisumu to do a soil survey. We visited 3 urban gardens, which you can see in yellow on the map, in Ubunga and Nyalenda. And during the last stakeholder meeting, I gave a presentation on some of the results. And you can find that presentation online if you're interested in viewing it. But in general, we found that the soils in the Kisumu urban gardens are rich in the essential nutrients needed to grow vegetables. In 2016, we also had a master's student visit Kisumu. Esme did research on women food producers, especially in Nyalenda, and looked how their knowledge on agricultural management practices influenced the nutrient content of the soil. And she found that while there was a wide variety of knowledge on different agricultural management practices, many women were limited in their choice based on their economic circumstances. And also not every woman had the same knowledge regarding the different agricultural management practices. We also found that the choice of agricultural management practice influences the amount of nutrients that are in the soil, even though overall the soils are still rich. So some of you might wonder that if there's enough knowledge on agricultural management practices and the soil is rich in nutrients, what is the natural sciences part of the Women Food Entrepreneurs Project currently doing? Well, one of the things you have to take into account is that when you grow crops, these crops remove nutrients from the soil in order to grow. And that when you harvest these crops, you are removing the nutrients from your field. So that's why a farmer continually has to fertilize their field in some way in order to reintroduce nutrients to their system. And that is part of what we are working on. Now, the most common type of fertilizer in use is compost or manure, which is dead animal or plant matter. And it also improves the structure of the soil and adds a lot of nutrients. The problem with it is often that you're not sure which nutrients you're adding or how much of it you're adding with the compost. Now, the other type of fertilizer that's more commonly used is artificial fertilizer, like NPK. And the name of these type of fertilizer often stand for the nutrients that you're adding. So NPK stands for nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. But the problem with these type of fertilizers is that they're often expensive. And if you add the wrong amount, especially too much, it can actually be bad for your soil and your plants. So what we're doing is looking at a third option, and that is rock dust. And that is a specifically selected rock which contains nutrients that you're looking for, that is very finely ground, kind of like into a kind of flour type substance that can be added to the soil to increase the amount of minerals and nutrients in the soil for plants to use. And it's supposed to be a cheap and more sustainable alternative to, for example, NPK. Now, plants take up nutrients from the soil through their roots, but they don't do this alone. They need the help of specialized organisms, microorganisms. They're called that because they can't be seen with the naked eye, but they can be seen with microscopes. And these microorganisms break down material in the soil that contains nutrients and make it available for the plant to take up. And in exchange, they get compounds that the plant makes from sunlight and water. One of the first things that we've been looking at is how these microorganisms respond to rock dust. Can they break it down and make nutrients available for plants? So it's important to see what these microorganisms do with the fertilizers we add. So we collected 2 types of rocks to produce rock dust from in and around Kisumu. We took 2 types of rock from in and around Ouagadougou, and we also used the compost from the Kibuye market, and we bought an NPK that's available commercially. And I also collected in 2016 a large amount of topsoil from Kisumu, and I divided them over a large amount of jars, as you can see on the picture. And then I added to each jar a different type of one of these fertilizers, and there were also some jars in which I mixed different ones of them together. And then we added all of these jars to a machine called the Respicant. Now the Respicant measures how much CO2 is released by the soil, or actually the soil microorganisms. Now the microorganisms, like us, kind of breathe oxygen and release CO2. So the more CO2 they produce, the more of them there are, and the more active that they are. So if they can do a lot with the fertilizer we add, that means that they are producing more CO2. Now here on this slide, you see some of the preliminary results. They're not quite ready yet, but they already show some interesting effects that we've been seeing. Now, one of the things you may notice is that rock dust 1 and 2 seem to produce quite a lot of CO2, just like the compost just below that. Now, rock dust 1 and 2 are actually the rock dust from Kisumu. And this means that the microorganisms in the Kisumu soil respond very well to the addition of rock dust made from rocks in and around Kisumu. Now, this is showing us that these Kisumu rock dust have the potential to add the minerals and nutrients to the soil that we have been looking for. And the next step in our experiments is to analyze the soil to see if these nutrients have actually been made available and are available to take up by plants. Now, to conclude, we found with our visits to Kisumu and also Ouagadougou that the soils in Kisumu are in a good condition and they contain a lot of the essential nutrients needed to grow vegetables. We also found that rock dust made from rocks that are found in and near Kisumu might be a good way to add new minerals and nutrients to the soil in the future so we can keep growing crops there. But in order to be sure about this, we need to do more tests. So we're looking forward to sharing more knowledge about this with you in the future. And at the end of it all, I wanted to thank you all for your help on this project. We couldn't have done it without the support of the community. And thank you for your attention. I hope that you have a great time during the rest of the workshop.